I'll get this right yet.
Oh, unmute. Woo! Merry
All right.
Christmas!
Sorry about that. That must have been me. I think I clicked on the wrong one and kept all you guys out. Sorry about it. I'm not the best on computers. You have to kind of give me a little bit of leeway.
I'm just impressed we're doing this.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Terrific.
I'm very good. I'm done working for the year.
Me?
No, me.
Oh, good for
I know,
you.
right? I've
Done for
got
the
all my,
year. I think I
yeah.
was done for the year last January.
You
It'd be
look
nice if I
fantastic.
actually did get some work, but who knows? So now you just get to kick back and relax.
Exactly.
Terrific. You still playing with glass?
I am not. I have started building stuff on my property. And then I've been drawing and painting again.
Nice.
So the glasses will eventually pick up again. But for right now, I'm as my mind goes, I ebb and flow with different things that I do. Right, Glenn?
Absolutely.
I see you giggling there.
Richard, haven't seen you in a while. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Been a while
Rich,
since, huh?
is is that like is the comic half of your screen?
I was too lazy today to put down my green screen, so I will do the proper thing.
The I love that you're in flannel jammies.
Cold out here.
It
Oh, there we
is.
go.
I've decided not to go to Michigan this year for Christmas.
Is that right? Why?
Um, you know what? I have three friends that have had COVID in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, that's a good reason.
And I talked to my neighbors and they're like, everybody's sick. So I
That,
was just
that,
like, I don't want to do it again. So I stayed here. I'm staying in Kansas with my daughter
well,
and Glenn.
I'll be out there for the DAX show.
When is that?
February something. I don't remember the date, but um matter of fact, Glenn and I got together last year.
Yep.
And so if you're around, maybe we can all just jump out for dinner or whatever.
I would love that.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. Would be nice. So what are you doing with yourself? I mean, I know that what you do, but been busy this year or traveling, not?
Actually, I haven't been traveling. It's been hard on the manufacturing side, all the way around. At the beginning of the year, we thought that there was going to be a recession.
Yes.
We were all planning it for it. And then it didn't happen, and then it didn't happen some more. And, business just kind of never picked up overall. Textile was hurt a lot more, but graphics was still in there. So it's been a tough year of
Hey,
just kind of staying on plan and doing what you can with what people are interested in.
yeah, textiles have been kind of interesting. A lot of the companies I spoke to said last year was so much better than this year,
Yeah.
which kind of weird coming off of the pandemic. You would have thought that things went downhill, but they didn't. They actually went uphill for a year, and now they're coming down.
Right, exactly. And
No rhyme or reason. Of course, no history that you can check back on. So unless you go back to 1918, I guess I'm not sure what things were like back then, but certainly the textile printing trade was not doing much. Richard, you find the same thing too?
Um, I find that um, how do I say it? I haven't found people to be interested in learning
Mm.
in general. They'll literally, like, let's say I get a call a week where somebody asks a question, and then you follow what it's even worse than ever before. They just want the pill. Can you just give me the answer, even though they're way off base? And it's tedious with, for instance, my foreign clients that I'm not going to talk to, although WhatsApp is very good for that. Typing back and forth on the text because they need an answer because they don't know anything and they don't like to read. Nobody likes to read anymore.
Yeah, well, there's YouTube, isn't there? I mean, why would you have to read if you can just listen to all the experts on YouTube?
Of
Or a
course, I have
lot of the
fun.
non-experts on YouTube.
Exactly, right?
I think
I had
it's
a
the
fun-
worst thing
I-
going, but that's just my opinion.
I had a lot of fun a couple of months ago because Glenn calls me up and says, have you got the old Joe Clark lenticular articles? And I didn't have them available. It was a lot of fun to find them.
Was
dig
a
them
lot
up
of fun
and
to reread them.
yeah.
Is
I-
it coming back? Is lenticular coming back?
Special effects
I
are
don't
coming
question
back.
Mr. Schull. He asked.
Now,
Yeah,
I
I
had
think
a
you're
client,
finding that special effects are starting to come back somewhat.
I had a client that was doing it with textiles. And, I brought in the article so I could get, up to date. I haven't even looked at lenticular in, God, I don't know how many years. And just wanted to get back up to speed, see if I could help them out at all as far as, what things to consider doing it on a textile, a non-lens, if you will. And they were pretty successful with it.
Yeah, it's not a difficult, situation. I think the biggest thing is understanding how the artwork has to be put together, which is really no big deal. The only mistake you would make is if you don't use black ink, then you cast a shadow, and of course you can read what it says without having to move the garment around. But it was never a challenge as far as doing it. It was just the challenge was in getting your artwork put together the right way. Other than that, just built it up.
I also found that on a textile, without having that lens to print on graphically, it had a lot to do with what color choices did you make for the shift. And, more contrasting colors to each other seem to give a much better lenticular appearance as you moved.
Yeah. What's going on the graphic side? Any new exciting things coming in your direction, Laura?
Oh, you know what? I was gonna mention on how business has been going. Last year we had a supply chain issue. Shipping was completely erratic. I just kind of felt that a lot of customers were stocking up on product because they didn't know what was going to happen
Yeah.
with what they needed, particularly on the industrial side where you needed very specific things that could go bye-bye in a minute. There was some of that as well. We resolved a lot of the supply issues this year. And I think people just had so much stock that they weren't purchasing as much, um, you know, um, especially early in the year. And then it just kind of business didn't pick up as much. On the graphic side, we make digital and screen ink, and both areas were slow. So it's almost an indicator that, the market as a whole has been down over last year and the year before even, which we thought it would be higher. People out buying more stuff and getting outside and doing things. And no, we didn't see that as much as we thought.
What are they predicting for next year?
Same.
Which
Not
means that Holding
Yeah.
the same route as they did in 23.
Yeah, if interest rates come down, possibly more equipment. We started seeing more equipment being purchased by the end of the year. And you know, that helps drive continued printing.
Yeah.
So you know, we still see graphic screen printing declining, but not to any degree that is surprising. There isn't a big drop off. It's just slowly declining. And digital is picking all that up. So the more digital expands, you know, the more it'll shift.
What do you think the percentage of digital is versus screen in terms of graphics?
Ooh.
Yeah, that one's
I
hard.
know, you know, like on the textile side, we know that digital makes up maybe 5 to 8%.
Yeah,
On the
and
graphics, it would certainly be considerably higher.
I want to say there's more digital. Um, it's hard because you can't compare gallon to gallon because it's different. You can't compare sales to sales numbers because they're different.
Yeah,
So, you know, Nazdar has, you know, very committed to keeping ink series around, screen ink series around. And so, you know, that's part of why we're not seeing a dramatic drop off is that we continue to pick up people. But yeah, on the graphic side, we expect digital to keep going. On the durable, it's starting to get there. You know, it hasn't overcome screen by any measure of the imagination. And then industrial, you know, there's just very hit or miss there. But it's
you're
coming
not
along.
involved at all with DTF, are you?
Not me personally, but you know, M&R came out with their DTF this
Right.
year and announced that Nazdar is their manufacturer. So we do have OEM relationship with them on the DTF.
Right.
I know at the last show, DTF was huge. It's kind of interesting. From what Glenn, you can chime in on this on the machines. Isn't it like an open format? I mean, no one has like the machinery tied down to anything specific. It's get a machine from Asia and modify it to do what you need it to do.
I've seen that. You know, the powders come from different sources.
Mhm.
You know, the powders are very generic and modified. But if I had the wherewithal to search through the stack of cards I still have sitting on my desk, I did meet a gentleman who has a digital printer that is inkjetting the adhesive, which is a place I really thought DTF needed to go to become more production worthy. You
Yeah.
know, it's those type of products are very tough on printheads. So, you know, getting one that works reliably. But think about it, you know, that powder is, in my opinion, one of the biggest downsides to DTF. I mean, we've used it for years. We used to use it in screen printing
Yeah.
to make transfers for nylon jackets, anything that would melt at a low temperature. But seeing it inkjetted successfully without tearing up the head, I think that's the place it needs to go, and that's the evolution you're going to see.
But you know, I think they'll probably work their way through. Look, when direct to garment first came out, the white ink would just, first of all, they couldn't get the white ink to work initially. Then when they finally did, it would just kill the heads.
Yeah.
And eventually they got it worked out where it didn't. So it's just a matter of time before they develop a head or they modify the powder to the point where it won't kill the heads as quickly. Lost you.
He muted himself. Oh, he hit his video now.
Lost him.
I think you scared him off, Charlie.
You know what? Just chases him away. That's all. Maybe he'll be back. Maybe he won't. Who knows?
So what are you doing these days, the last couple months of the year?
Twiddling my thumbs, unfortunately. I mean, most years I travel overseas quite a lot, do a lot of road work. Did 2 trips out overseas, one for FESPA in May, and then ITMA in June, which is brutal. I don't know if you've ever done the ITMA show, but it's 7 days long, and it wears the hell out of you. That being said, I would have loved to have done a hell of a lot more overseas, but once the pandemic hit, a lot of the shows that I did in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, they just fell apart. So their shows are back, but I'm not getting invited to any of those. So did finish up my book, have that out and published, almost done with my second one, which is non-technical at all, just my years in the industry and some of the things that went on back from the early days. Just kind of kicking around, hoping to get some things going. Looking forward to the Long Beach show, which usually kicks off the screen print side. Doing some workshops at that show and some seminars, but business has just been off as far as consulting. So who knows? And you're basically on as a consultant, correct? For Nazdar.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, you're in their consulting. Are you in their consulting area, or are you? I'm not sure.
I'm not actually. I run the product managers for the
Okay.
manufacturing side of things. So we each have our specialty. Mine is the screen inks. So it's from development all the way through beta testing and release. And then once it's released, sales takes over and sells it.
And then you're back to playing around again.
And then I'm back to playing around again until they have me discontinue things, which usually doesn't happen unless a supplier says to us, hey, we're no longer making this ever again as of today. And then we have to scramble and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
That's when that happens, it just kills us, especially on the industrial side. I was trying to find your book. What is your book called?
I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. I had a phone call come in. I had to jump off on.
So this is the
Nice.
Screen Printer's Handbook and Survival Guide. And that's the back of it. Okay, I think the back looks better than the front myself, but in any event, that's what happens when you're out of commission in terms of work for about 2.5 years. Dug through and put together the book based on a lot of my articles and consulting work and stuff. Didn't realize how long it was. It's 260 pages from cover to cover, which kind of shocked me when I realized how thick it was. But it's out there. I mean, I was never really concerned about writing a book, but what do you do when when you're on the road almost 200 days a year and then you're on the road for 0? So it's driving me crazy sitting at home doing nothing.
Well,
Did a bunch of painting.
good.
Huh?
You look really good.
I'm hoping that it is. I mean, it's been out there and I haven't gotten any complaints, but then again, most people don't complain too much anyway. So
I think she
who
meant
knows?
that you look good.
Yes, that's what I meant. You look good.
Me?
Yeah. I haven't
must
seen
have-
you in a while. I don't think I've seen you in 3 or 4 years in person.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably been about that long. You know, as we get older, things do change a bit. A little less hair, a couple new wrinkles, few more visits to the hospital. You know, my list of doctors, I have to look up who I'm going to see on what day of the week. But other than that, you know, feeling pretty decent. Would love to just get rid of all the damn pills and doctors and not have to deal with any of them. But, you know, that's part of the package, unfortunately.
It is. I think we've all gone through that.
And
Maybe not to
continue
the
to.
same extreme.
Well, you know, I mean, there was a time where you took one pill, then there was two, then there was 10, then there was 12. Then you wonder, am I taking all of them or did I skip any of them? Because there were too many damn things. And in any event, who knows? Looking forward to getting this other book out though, because that one is really more fun about what things were like back in the 70s and 80s and definitely working its way up to today. But the industry has changed so much. I mean, you know, all of us have been at this for a while. I guess I got into it in 76. Richard, you got into it in about 81, 82?
1979.
79. And Laura, you got into it.
Late 90s.
Okay. And I know, Glenn, when did you get into this?
81.
Okay. You know, when you go back to those early days, especially whenever there was a show, the parties that went on were
God, yes.
fantastic. You know, the Newman party was always one of the highlights. Way too much to drink. I love the fact that Don always had weird foods because I love weird food. You know, nowadays, I think it's starting to pick up a little bit. They're starting to do a couple of things at some of the shows, not much, but, you know, it used to be you'd get this whole list of who's doing what, and it was like, damn, which one do I have to go to first? I can spend a half hour there, then run over to the next one because you had to make all of them. Otherwise, people bitched and moaned that you weren't at their place. Today, everybody's kind of checking around to find out who's doing anything so you can get to it.
It was the Wild West, man.
It was so much more fun.
Companies could pop up because one guy had an idea, laid it down on a manual press, and before you know it, the guy had 6 automatics.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was an evolution of how we separated art and created images, going from Joe's Bar and Grill, you know, to full simulated process. And it was a blast. Those were my favorite days.
You know, what was interesting back then was everybody was really dying for information, and you really had a really good exchange with those that you kind of knew and almost waited for the shows so that you could get together and really discuss what you were doing, how you were doing it. Today, not that we don't discuss things, but between Zoom sessions and the whole internet thing and stuff, you don't get as much questioning, really. I mean, everybody just jumps over to YouTube. And it's like, do you even know if you're getting good information or not? And the answer is, of course, they wouldn't know. If they knew, they wouldn't be on there. Not to say that everything on YouTube is bad, but for a lot of the newer people looking for answers, they have no idea if they're getting good information or bad information. Where at least at the shows back in the day, when you sat down with a bunch, you know, with a crowd, got a good exchange of ideas, things that did work, things that didn't work. Nobody is really tooting their own horn for the most part. Nowadays, everybody wants to do that.
Yeah, it was like everybody had a piece of information, and they were learning and compiling it when we came together, right? That was the camaraderie that got me excited about screen printing early on. And so the egos were a lot less, simply because everybody was coming at it from a different direction or overlapping each other, and it was super energizing. And you're right, like today, like I get it, it's a mature industry, and we've learned a lot, we've compiled a lot, so that, you know, you can work your process relatively easy. And so the sharing of information isn't there as much. And so when we lose those people or that information, it's gone. And then it's as quick as you can to get it, move on, next thing. So yeah, I do miss it. I miss the coming together of people, and people not being so judgmental, I guess, the thing. I don't know how else to say it.
I can remember back in the 70s when I went to my first couple of shows, the textile division, which was minute at the time, we'd have our meeting and everybody was so excited that we'd go to dinner and then we'd come back. We'd actually stay out until midnight at the convention center going through whatever we wanted to go through in terms of exchanging of ideas, et cetera. That went on for a couple of years. Of course, slowly they booted us out of the hall and stuff, but you know, you'd have the different departments meeting, the textile division, the graphics division, and it was always a long, involved situation, which was great. I didn't mean it long, involved in a boring way. It was always a real, you know, they'd give you 3 hours and 5 hours into it, you were still going strong. Where today, they do have seminars, they do have workshops, et cetera, but you don't really have that roundtable cross discussion. You know, you go to a seminar and of course you have the person up front who's pretty much dictating what's going on. You do get some questions, but you don't really get an exchange of ideas that way. And those are some of the things that I think, unfortunately, are missing. You know, even when we have our, look, all of us are members of the academy. It's too bad we don't have any real discussion in terms of what's going on a technical level. It's, you know, a lot of bitching and moaning for the most part, unfortunately. But it is, you know, and it would be nice if the academy maybe had some more things going on that were more interactive between all of us as to what we're doing, what's going on, where the thought process is in terms of what the year has to offer, what new developments are coming up. I mean, all of us tend to tout what we're involved with, which I understand. You know, and we all have our big heads in that particular direction. Of course, not too many people know who the hell the academy is anyway, so I'm not sure if our heads should be quite as big as they are, but nevertheless.
I don't think very many people knew it when I got in, and that was 15 years ago. It's very hit or miss if people know about it. What I think also kind of changed things is, since we didn't meet for 3 years, there's a different rhythm, and there's newer people in that haven't kind of gone through 3 or 4 years of sitting around jibber jabbering with everybody and feeling amazed at who's in the room just for their historical greatness. I don't know how else to say it. It's such a privilege being part of it, because you're in there with, you know, people who have invented materials and equipment that the industry has been built on. Like, that's crazy. So you know, it's changing for the better or the worse, and the easiest thing to do is complain about it.
Yeah.
But I still love seeing everybody, you know, going to the shows and seeing each other on the regular was always a big deal for me.
Well, I mean, that's the best part of it, is getting to see everyone. It was always nice though when it was Zoom sessions certainly have their place, and I don't knock them, but at the same time, it was really good to just physically be in the same room
Yeah.
and get to see everyone. You know, it's funny, I was remembering back late 80s, early 90s, Michelle Kaza actually asked me if I would want to get into the academy. I didn't know what the hell he was even talking about. And so I kind of blew it off back then, like, academy, what the hell is that? But you know, I do miss, I mean, I went to the last academy meeting. Uh, Glenn, you were there with me, and Richard, you were there.
Yep.
It was a horror. I mean, it was
And we
totally,
had to pay.
you had to pay $50 to get an hors d'oeuvre. Really? I mean, that's absurd. They couldn't afford to pick up our tab. I mean, I'm trying to figure out where the hell the $50 went to, because there was certainly no food. Must have gone to pay for the waiter and the bartender, because that's all there was. But
And
I
no
don't know.
meeting, no meeting of any sort. Just gave the announcements for the Swarmsteads, and boom, it was over.
Yep. You know,
Or guys like Jim Raffle, who brought his partner with him, he had to pay $120 to get her in.
125, but that's besides the
Oh.
point.
No,
I mean, it was absurd. You know, I was
Wow.
talking, I talked to Lon, and he said, $50 for me and 125 for my wife. For what? Ever since Printing United and has become or has taken over SCIA, I don't know. You know, it's funny, who was I talking to? One of the people said, what do you think about the idea of FESPA taking over the academy and taking care of it? You know, my own feelings are, why not? I don't care. Certainly, Printing United isn't doing a damn thing for us. You know, all they did was scrap everything that was online about us.
Mm.
Anyway, wrong discussion for here, I guess. Maybe
It's
not. I don't know.
Hence, you get to see the gist of most of our meetings.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's nice being in the academy. It's a wonderful thing in terms of putting it on your resume. But outside of that, I'm not sure what it does for anyone at this point.
We're working on a few things in the marketing committee. Richard, you're in on some of those.
Yeah.
To try and turn that around a little bit. You know,
Well, you know, I think it's
give us a
absurd that
little bit more presence.
we have to get approval from the higher ups on who we can potentially bring in and who we can't.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I
Oh,
agree.
huh?
I agree. You know, I just really would like, you know, and Richard, you're a advocate of this, is to bring back the information that was tangible to people.
Yeah.
And you know, I had lots of discussions when I was trying to get things done. You know, it seems like Ray is trying to get things done much more than before, but it's gone. Like it's been a struggle, and we've never really got a straight story about where the academy is going to be and all the information that, you know, has been compiled. It's back to being piecemealed. I really hope, you know, I really hope that that happens. And you know, in the last meeting, is there's so much historical stuff, but also there's so many diverse ideas about what is correct and what is not correct. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about screen printing, is it's so varied and people have a way of just making it work to what they need it to do. You know, it's very much not, it's very much anti-digital in the sense that, you know, you can put anything through the screen. You know, if you can make it happen, then if you can push it through, then you can make it happen. Digital is a lot more constrained and a lot less creative. You know, that's why I chose screen printing over offset printing back in the day, is because offset was so constrained. So yeah, I really hope that, you know, they can eventually get that information out there. I would love to have the Academy be able to at least look at what the articles are, the video content or whatever, so that we can say, yes, it's a good thing or not, but not have the Printing United organization monitor what's posted or not. So
Good luck with that.
I know. I know. Plus, if I can do a project in the background,
I mean, how pissed off do you think
Okay.
they would be if we went to
Love that.
FESPA?
huh?
How
cares?
pissed off do you think they would be if we
Cares?
went to FESPA?
Now, the big
cares?
question is, would they notice?
I mean, you know, Kaza belonged to both. Obviously, he was one of the originators of FESPA. I don't know, how long ago did the Academy actually start? I don't even remember what year it started in.
I think it's
Richard, do you have any idea?
1973.
1973, that's right. That's right.
73. Wow.
Isn't that crazy? There was like 4 members.
In 73, yeah, they're probably the 4 that had fax machines.
And I have a lot of the paperwork that Marcy gathered. Some of the historical paperwork. It's actually sitting right over there.
So wouldn't you like someone to scan those?
I would love it. I was going to bring. I keep meaning to bring them into work and scan them all. But are you saying I could send them to you, Richard?
If you send them to me, they will go through one of my 2 scanners that I just stick in 50 pages at a time and press a button, and they come through and they're PDF stored with OCR.
I'd love it. All right. Well, I have the box right over there, and I have to go to the post office to mail off some presents. So look at that, Charlie.
Ah.
You gave me action item. Dang it.
Well, anyway, it's been nice having you on.
So how often do you have these?
I have these, I try to do them every other Tuesday. Sometimes they kind of get changed around, but I try to keep them on Tuesdays. And so sometimes it'll be once a month, most of the time twice a month. Once in a while it'll be back-to-back Tuesdays. Sometimes somebody just bails out on me. I had one where 5 minutes before it's supposed to start, I get a note saying, had to take my father to the doctor, can't make it. It's like, really, your father's doctor's appointment started, 5 minutes ago? No. But no, I do these every other Tuesday, but the next one isn't until January 2nd with Marcia Derryberry, who's now the new editor or editor-in-chief of Screen Printing Magazine and The Big Picture. So she'll be on January 2nd.
Marcy asked me if I had ideas because she wanted me to write. And so I sent her 70.
Now, I was smart. I only sent her about 5 or 6. So this way she wouldn't have a difficult time reading through them.
Well, see, the Screen Printing Magazine's not a magazine anymore. It's a blog.
Yeah.
And so it could come out once a week, could come out once a day. The kind of stuff that I'm talking about would be taking an article that you wrote in 1982 for Impressions. Oh, not Impressions, sorry, from Screen Printing Magazine, and republishing it with a little blurb that says, here's why it's important. Here's the Tomasz Preszka article about infrared energy. What?
It'll be kind of fun to see somebody that we know take over on a different magazine and see how well she does with it. Especially, I guess the Big Picture falls more in line with the digital and the graphic side.
Yeah.
So
Well, what's interesting is that the new bosses, the smart media, nobody knows who they are. So I know that Adrienne couldn't really tell me about what their influence was. Marshall and Andy, that literally write for them every single issue, they they can't give any feedback on what the bosses want.
Hmm.
But they're not embracing, I mean, they're embracing the press release mentality of the web, but they're not embracing the technical side. So I know that I could pluck an article a day and post it, something they own already, if they actually do. Because Adrienne never got into that with me either, as to whether or not they got all the, all the old magazines, or, if they bought it whole and wholesale.
Well, we'll see
Charlie, I
what
have a
happens.
question for you. Of all the articles and stuff that you've done, what's one that sticks out right now that you're most proud of?
Who, me or
Yeah,
Richard?
Charlie.
you.
Me? I
Yeah.
have no idea. I was going through some of the old screen impressions magazines and some of the screen print magazines. I mean, I used to write a column for for impressions. I can't remember any of those. Some of them are just old enough where they're not valid in today's world anymore. They were back then. A lot of my stuff was just procedural. It's what you do on the factory floor. Um,
Yeah.
Honestly, nothing that really stood out. It was more of a situation of, if this is what you want to do, this is how you do it. And I'm not, it's back when everybody would read a magazine. You'd get it and you'd actually not only thumb through it, but you'd caught an article that you really liked, and so you did read it. Now online, I mean, I find myself opening up the digital editions, and I'll kind of read it partially and kind of blow it off because it's like, I can catch up on this later. I think back before we had all of the digital stuff, it was a lot more exciting and a lot more fun to write and to get feedback. But I couldn't pick out one particular article or anything.
Glenn, what about you?
I also did artwork by hand at that point and never got involved with computers, which was probably a good thing for me. I'm Richard. Any particular article that you ever wrote that just stood out for you?
Well, the one that comes to mind is the one where you introduced the spot process kind of style. It was a picture of a globe that had about 4 or 5 different colors on it. And what you addressed is sort of the stamping of the colors that you expected the inks to mix together. So it was a lot more primitive than spot process, let's say 10 years later. But I remember vividly that you were demonstrating, if you embrace build up, that you pull the colors together, that you'll get something. It's not going to be something that's a hard, sharp edge, but that's not what you were doing. And it looked more like painting. It was definitely influenced by your painting background.
I wish I could remember it.
It was a globe. So blue and yellow were the dominant colors.
Got me. Can't remember it, sorry.
Now I have to dig it up.
What about articles that you wrote?
Me.
Uh,
About Richard, yeah.
Any of us. I mean, we've
Go ahead,
all
Richard.
written.
The early days of tension. I was working for Don Newman at the time, 86, 87. Those were go years for tension, because Donald took us from 10 Newtons to 20 newtons, which was the upper stratosphere of tension.
Yeah.
So I think those had, plus I was a whisperer for Coudray and Clark, who were usually talking a little bit higher in the esoteric, and I talked very kitchen, very plain. So I think that was my, my
Sparky,
Somebody isn't happy or is very happy. I'm not sure.
where's my dinner?
Exactly. I did, I was thinking that question when we had the, I did an article in the journal on figuring out your exposure time for a screen, and there were different methods
Yes.
for it. And like, I think like I did some research into it, and I spent a lot of time rewriting it. Probably my most successful article that nobody knows about.
Using an exposure calculator to determine degree of resistance.
Exactly. That sounds right. Gosh, you are on it. But I mean, I've done a lot of articles, but that one was so concise and kind of at the right time. But at the journal wasn't being read a lot then. You could only get the journal if you were a member. And then it was a matter if you were a member, if you got the magazine. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be proud about, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I've always liked that one.
Hmm.
What about you? Go ahead.
the one that always sticks out in my mind, not so much because of the topic, but just the amazement I saw going from shop to shop to shop. I wrote an article on press geometries and bringing your Sparky. Sorry about that. We have a blow up Frosty the Snowman, and when the wind comes, he moves, and Sparky thinks the house is being attacked by aliens. So I wrote an article about understanding your press geometries because I was traveling to so many shops, and you bring down a screen or you bring up a pallet and everything is cockeyed. And they're bending a squeegee going, I shouldn't have to put that much pressure on. And I'm like, well, there's a reason you're putting that much pressure on. And, I remember showing a customer in New Jersey. I went and spent 2 hours resetting his automatic. We increased productivity close to 30% just by getting the geometries consistent and set. And the first words out of his mouth is, great, I won't have to do this again for a while. And I go, no, this is something you're going to need to stay on top of, because every time you make a change, because back then, remember, it was all threaded rod and bolt, for screen clamps and so on and so forth. I said, anytime you make a change of pallets, you need to be checking these things. And so we just made a bunch of little shim tools that would allow them to bring a pallet up and just do a quick check. See if anything, oh, wow, this slid in half the way in. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And that was probably the most fun because I saw the biggest result from it. I'm very excited about the article that I'm writing right now regarding equipment, understanding your equipment purchase, building profit strategies for equipment that I'm hoping to be able to submit a first draft now that Marcia is back at the magazine or in charge of the magazine, because this falls both across screen and digital. Actually, to tell you the truth, doing my research, it falls across any capital equipment purchase a company would make. Doesn't matter. what industry you're in. So I'm hoping to be able to sit down with her out at Long Beach, go over a first draft, have her laugh very hard at my writing ability. But like we all said during Marshall and Allen's show when she was on, you know, that's what editors are for. You know, I
Right.
had a great one back in the day, Mark Buchanan from Printware.
Yeah.
Was able to clean up my stuff, but maintain my voice, my sense of humor. And, you know, now I guess, you know, I could just do it AI, but I don't know.
Yeah, I had a gentleman edit an article for a Canadian magazine.
Hmm,
Best editor I've ever worked with.
really?
Really?
Nice.
Absolutely fantastic. Because normally people are like, "Oh, yours is good enough. It's fine." Blah blah blah. He was like, made me sound so much better than I really was. I don't remember his name. I'll have to see if I can find it.
What magazine?
It was a Canadian magazine, like an industrial Canadian magazine. I'll look through my list and see which one it is.
Huh.
Yeah, he was great. I did find the first 3 members of the Academy: James Black, Albert Kozloff, and it says Ruby Jr. No, Ray Ruby Jr. Yeah, those were the three first people.
Osloff
You're-
is the only name that I know.
I know, right?
I've got, for 73, I've got Ray Ruby, Robert Fawcett, Bert Zahn,
Oh,
Albert Kosloff, and James Black.
you have more than me. That's fantastic.
In 1974, John Key, Larry Rogers, and then Peter Terry. 75, Stan Cygan. I've never heard of him. Cygan.
Did you say,
Frank Meyer?
did you say Peter Terry?
Peter Terry in 1974.
Okay, so that was from Union Inc. Yeah.
Aye. Gosh, I
Huh.
haven't thought of Peter in a long time. In 76, it's E.J. Kyle, Joseph Podger, and a guy named K. James Reed.
Doctor, he's from England.
Oh,
Joe
I'll
Parker sounds
put a
familiar
doctor.
to me for some reason.
Huh?
So Joe Podger sounds familiar to me.
Yeah.
Somewhere in my memory, I got something there.
That's what got me involved in with the association when I went to work for Podger in 82. You know, having that legacy into the association, you know, and having it be in Fairfax, which was right in the middle of my territory. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer to start getting involved. And then when I met Richard, who used to come and do our open houses, you know, he really started getting my mind thinking about, hey, wait a minute, you know, there's some stuff here technically. And then after Richard, I met Joe Clark. I mean, I had some of the best mentors on the planet when it came to that. And I was a young, very curious kid. And, you know, the nice part was that the old Podger company, if you remember, Richard, had
Oh,
that
yeah.
little lab in the back. So Richard would come to me with something and I'd be able to be like, I'm going to go do that right now. And
I was just across the
very
bridge.
fun.
Just
Yep.
across the bridge.
Yeah. Oh,
And you
well.
always carried a hockey puck in your pants. It was his main visual thing to take out a hockey puck and put it down, his representation of a dot.
And the key part of that was to put it inside a roll of tape, 1-inch roll of tape. They
Yep.
fit perfectly. And I don't have one here in the room. And then I'd say, okay, take that squeegee and make that ink come out of the roll of tape. Oh, come on, get on there. Here, push on my shoulders. And the blade would bend and bend and bend and bend and bend. And you couldn't make the ink. I've got a video of a car, pickup truck driving over a roll of tape with the hockey puck in it. And the whole idea is that little Jennifer, 6 years old, can just pick up the roll of tape. It's the snap off that is screen printing, not the squeegee. That and getting people to print with a putty knife. Ah. If you learn screen printing from me, you printed with a putty knife.
We've
Oh,
taken over your corner, Charlie.
Huh?
We've taken your corner over.
Yeah. It's always nice to have Richard on. Always. In any event, I think I'm done for today. I think it was a fun session. I'm not sure what we really accomplished, but I think we accomplished more than I probably need to read it over again or listen to it again. But in any event, it was fun having you guys on. Thanks so much for being the guest, Laura.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.
You know, anytime you want to jump on, don't hesitate. Richard, always good to see you. Same thing with you, Glenn. I'll let you know when that show is in Kansas City. And if you're the,
Yeah.
you know, if we can, maybe we'll just at worst jump out, grab a drink or something.
Yeah,
Terrific.
dude, be awesome.
Guys, have a great holiday. Enjoy. Don't get too caught up in it, I guess. And we'll see you all hopefully at some of the shows. Certainly we'll see you online.
Exactly. Take care.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.